I have created a literature which is half autobiography and half fiction. I began to mix fiction with reality to such a degree that after a while I was bewildered myself. I didn't know what is really autobiography and what is fiction. This is the house. This is it. It have done some changes, but it's the same house where Esther lived, the woman whom I describe in my story as Esther. Her name was not really Esther, well, anyhow.
I ate my breakfast quickly and left. Outside, I looked in the letterbox, but there was nothing for me. Only 2 blocks away, I could see the house Esther had rented the winter before last. She let rooms to people who wanted to spend their vacations near New York. I couldn't visit her during the daytime. I used to steal over late at night. Esther was almost 10 years older than I. She had divorced her husband, a Yiddish poet, a modernist, a communist, a charlatan. He took off for California and never sent a penny for their 2 little daughters. He was living with an artist who painted abstract pictures. A lot of Yiddish writers and journalists lived there that summer, and they were not to know about my love affair with Esther. Since I didn't intend to marry her, why jeopardize her reputation?
This house was full of Yiddish writers. Here they were sitting and discussing literature, and there I came in the middle, a new writer, a would-be writer, a brother of a writer, and all. And this Esther was a beautiful woman, a widow. It's one of those things which a man, especially a man who writes, cannot forget.
Been in America for 18 months, but Coney Island still surprised me. The sun poured down like fire. From the beach came a roar even louder than the ocean.
Put your dime in the plate and take the plate home with you. Yes, folks.
I passed a sideshow displaying a creature that was half woman, half fish. A wax museum with figures of Marie Antoinette, Buffalo Bill, and John Wilkes Booth. A store where a turbaned astrologer sat in the dark, surrounded by maps and globes of the heavenly constellations. Everyone bellowed in his own way. Sellers of popcorn and hot dogs, ice cream and peanuts, cotton candy and corn on the cob. Every day, the same group of old men was gathered at the pavilion discussing communism. A little man with a round red face and white hair like foam shook his head violently and yelled, "Who's going to save the workers? Hitler? Mussolini? That social fascist Leon Blum? That opportunist Norman Thomas? Long live Comrade Stalin! Blessed be his hands." I decided to walk to Brighton. The girders of the L threw a net of sun and shade on the pavements. A train from Manhattan zoomed by with a deafening clatter. No matter how time and space are defined, I thought, it is impossible to be simultaneously in Brooklyn and Manhattan. I passed by windows displaying mattresses and samples of roofing shingles, kosher chickens. I stopped at a Chinese restaurant. Should I go eat lunch? No, in the cafeteria it might be a nickel cheaper. I was down to almost my last cent. If my sketch after the divorce didn't appear in the Sunday edition, nothing remained but suicide. I knew that those who are condemned to death order last meals. People don't even want to be executed on an empty stomach.
Chocolate. No. Thank you.
I counted my money, and I remembered that I had to call the newspaper and ask about my sketch. I knew that a call from Coney Island to Manhattan cost 10 cents, and the Sunday editor, Leon Diamond, rarely came into the office. I prayed to the same powers preparing the world catastrophe that the operator wouldn't give me a wrong number. I pronounced my number as clearly as I could in my accent, and she told me to put in my dime. The girl at the switchboard answered, and I asked for Leon Diamond. I was almost sure she would tell me that he wasn't in his office, but I heard his voice on the line. I began to stutter and excuse myself. When I told him who I was, he said brusquely, "Your story will be in on Sunday." Thank you very much. Send me a new story. Goodbye. A miracle of heaven, I shouted to myself. The moment I hung up, another miracle occurred. Money began to pour from the telephone. For a second, I hesitated. But the telephone company would never get it back anyway, and someone who needed it less than I might find it.
It was almost $1, and I suddenly became rich.
Is this actually a true
This
story?
actually happened. And in addition, when I finally made a call, I learned that the story was accepted. And then they paid for a story about $50 or $60. This meant to me about 3 months rent